What is up, YouTube? I am Iato, and I am here to give you guys my League's 6 build that I've been making. It's spicy, it's fun, it's strong, it hits all the boxes for me. You can see on the screen that I have some of the gear that you can expect to have once you hit the later stages of the build, and I just wanted to go over it. In fact, I'm going to go over every detail, every facet of the build, but I will remind that this is only a build guide. This is not a pathing guide. So I'm only going to be going over the things you need for the build, and I'm going to be talking about every part of it, but I won't tell you necessarily how to get there. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. Now, this is friendly for podcast listeners. If you're just listening to the video, it's mostly friendly. You might need to look at the screen sometimes when I get to the actual skill tree part, but let's get right into it. This is a 2-region build. Everything you will need for this build is in the first 2 regions. It is a hybrid melee mage build. It's about 80% melee, and about 20% of it has magic elements. This build is the kind of build where it will enable you to get 8 hours of sleep. I mean, that's ultimately going to be up to you. Sleep as much as you want or as little, but this is a Dragon Cup build. This set of relics and the actual combat power of this build is extremely strong. You can get everything in the game done. The most important part, in my opinion, is that this is a 3rd region flex pick. You can go any 3rd region you want, and everything in this build is in the first 2 regions. For me, that was a huge thing when I was making it, and this is a gigantic attraction, in my opinion, for this build, is that it's very versatile, and you only need 2 regions lined up to make it. Speaking of regions, let's go ahead and talk about our main regions. So everyone's going to start off in Varlamore. Now, like I said, I can't tell you exactly the order in which you can get all this, but what you will need is you are going to need the Infernal Tech Paddle from the Echo Amoxhliatl. You will need those. You will also need Full Blood Moon, and you will need some kind of shield. Now, the shield's power isn't necessarily important. You are just going to want a shield in general to proc a lot of our abilities in our skill tree. Our first region we're going to be picking is Asgarnia. Now, the reason why we're taking Asgarnia is essentially for the Echo Weapon, the Fang of the Hounds. The items that you will need from Asgarnia is Primordial Boots for the build is fantastic. You'll want either Bandos or Torva. They're pretty close, not a huge difference, but Torva's obviously better. And then the actual Fang of the Hounds itself from Echo Cerberus is our main weapon for the build. Now, our second region is Fremennik. Now, a lot of people probably know, if you've been keeping up with the League's announcements, that Fremennik got nerfed pretty heavily. Fremennik has 2 things going for it. One, the helmet is extremely underrated. People do not know the sheer power of this helmet, and I'm going to showcase it in the build. Additionally, it has pretty easy tasks. There's not anything crazy going on in Fremennik or anything super hard. You could full complete the Fremennik list quite easily. It's really not difficult. So you're going to need the Echo Dagannoth King's drop, which is now called V's Helmet. That is super vital for our build. You will also, not necessarily required, but it is borderline a requirement, is the Dragonfire Shield. It is so powerful for this build that I could not imagine doing this build without it. It gives us exactly what we want, and it's such a potent item that I would recommend that it is a complete requirement. Now, the 2 Echo items, I want to go ahead and talk about those. But before we do, I want to talk about some optional items. Now, this build could be ran with a Dragon Defender. I don't recommend it because I've built it almost entirely to be paired with a shield. There's so many nodes in the tree that synergize with a shield, but a Dragon Defender or an Avernic Defender is absolutely able to be substituted. You can get a Berserker Ring from Dagannoth Rex if you don't feel like getting a Ultor Ring. If you don't want to grind out Ultor from Vardorvis, this is a viable option. Avernic Treads are better than Prims. You will most likely get Primordials, which is why it's in the required from actually killing Cerberus normally. They're going to be super common. Avernic Treads are obviously better, and they're Tribrid, which benefit really well from our build additionally as well. So let's go ahead and talk about our first Echo item we're going to be getting, which is our main weapon for the build. Our main weapon is the Fang of the Hound. It is a one-handed dagger. The fact that it's a dagger is super important because we're going to be doing a light weapon build. It has a 3-tick attack speed at base, which is important because that will go down to a 2. But let's go ahead and talk about what the weapon actually does first. Every hit of the Fang has a 5% chance to cast Flames of Cerberus, which is pretty much just a fire activation under the enemy. Now, Flames of Cerberus is a fire elemental spell. It has a base max hit of 10, and can be increased with elemental weakness and magic strength. Every single one of those is super important. The 10 means it's going to have a great max hit automatically. It gets increased by all of the fire elemental spell buffs and nerfs from, enemies having being weak to fire spells, and your magic strength accumulates into that damage. All fantastic. When this effect is triggered, your magic damage is dealt without needing to pass accuracy. Fantastic. Auto hits. And it also benefits from your packs. Now, that is super important. We're going to be running packs that are going to buff this, and it's going to turn us into an absolute machine. Additionally, a very large part of this weapon is spec. It costs 50% spec energy and performs an instant hit. So this is essentially a dagger version of a granite maul, but it guarantees the chance of that fire damage. This is going to stack up on synergy so much with our build. We're going to get into that in just a second, but I want to go ahead and talk about V's helmet. So V's helm is our highest synergy item for our defense. It is a helm slot and it's tribrid, so it has positive accuracy in everything, which is great. When hit directly with 1 or more damage, this is going to provide a 5% chance to reduce the damage to 0. Fantastic. This is going to triple down on our build, exactly what it wants to do. We're very tanky, very defensive, and not only is going down to 0 damage great, but when this triggers, it's going to make it so our next spec within 60 seconds costs no spec. That is insane with the Fang of the Hounds. The Fang of the Hound is going to be a phenomenal spec weapon and a main weapon, and spamming specs with this is going to give you some outrageous DPS. Now, this helmet already with those things is fantastic, but what really helps this be very cohesive with all of our choices we're going to make is that it counts as an imbued Slayer helmet. Now, later on in the tiers for the relics, there's a Slayer relic. We don't have to go that because we're going to have this, so we can wrap up our Slayer grind without even ever needing that perk, and we can go ahead and just take this instead, and now we have more options for our relics. So the last thing that I want to go over here for these slides is I want to talk about some weapon progression. Now, in Varlamore, we're going to start off, we're going to have access to fairy rings, which means we have access to Zenaris, which they've confirmed, which means we have access to the dragon weaponry shop where we can get a dagger. Now, before then, you'll probably just use myth, addy, rune daggers. You'll go ahead and benefit from that light weapon category. Once you get to the dragon dagger is when you're going to get the ball rolling on everything else that you can get in the league for the build. So you're going to use the dragon dagger to kill Echo Amoxiliadal. Getting the Infernal Tech Paddle is vital for the build. Everyone's going to get it, but it's extremely vital for our build because the weapon we're going for, being the Fang of the Hound, is Cerberus. So there's two options that you can go from here. You can take the Infernal Tech Paddle and you can do the Slayer grind and get yourself an Abyssal Whip, which is admittedly far stronger than the Infernal Tech Paddle because the Infernal Whip, or the Abyssal Whip, it benefits from being a light weapon because it weighs less than half of a kilogram and you can wear a shield. So we're going to get all the benefits from our build for wearing the whip. The Tech Paddle does not benefit from our perks, but it is a strong enough weapon where you could skip over the whip and get the Fang with the Tech Paddle. That is absolutely possible. You don't have to do it. This is the recommended weapon progression that I would say you should do. But if you're good at the game, you can skip this as long as you make your way to the Fang of the Hound. That is all that matters for the build. Now, let's go ahead and get into the actual skill tree. So we start off with 1 point automatically allotted on our tree, and we're going to kick the league off with 2 points. Now, there's a consensus in the community that each time you transition through a region, you're going to have roughly 8 points. So leaving Varlamore will have 8. Leaving your first, you'll have probably about 16. Leaving your second, you'll have roughly 24. That is perfect for our build because we get to perfectly align those increments with our power. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the path we're going to take. We're going to start on the melee path over here, and we're going to go all the way up to this ultimate node right here. Now, let me go ahead and explain what these do. This is where you'll be once you're either at the end of Varlamore or leaving. So we're going to get some minimum hit damage. Our melee hits are going to be increased to be a minimum of 3. That's fantastic. Our weapons under 1 kilogram will trigger an additional hit. So whatever we hit on that hit splat, we're going to do another hit for 40% of that damage, up to 40% of our max hit. So, and it's also always going to hit a 1, which is fantastic. So this is going to give us double hits on all of our light weapons, which makes all those daggers and stuff versatile and also viable in the leagues in general. We can go to a bunch of different weapons. We can do a whip, a dagger. This is amazing. Special attacks have a 20% chance not to consume spec. Now, this is a no-brainer, right? The more you spec, the more chances you have to not use it, the better it is. Fantastic. This, for the Fang of the Hounds especially, completely busted. Vital perk. This is probably the strongest perk that we have so far. So this is melee weapons under 1 kilogram will attack 1 tick faster. So that means our Dragon Dagger is going to be a 3-tick weapon, and our Fang of the Hounds is going to be a 2-tick weapon. This is insane. This is going to make the entire build just really go over the top with power. Attack speed reduction is actually way less common in this league, so this is much, much appreciated on our melee tree. And then we have this perk up here. Whenever you deal damage with a melee weapon, you restore 2% spec energy per hit. That is insane. When you attack with the Fang of the Hounds later in the build, you're going to be doing a second hit, and then when you use your special attack, you're going to be auto-proccing that fire damage. That is 3 hits, which gives us 6% spec back per spec that we use. If we get free specs, that gives us even more spec energy, and then we can spam it even more. So the synergy here, even in the first 8 points, is already absolutely phenomenal. Now, you're going to leave Varlamore. You're going to go to your first region. We're going to hit Asgarnia, right? Then we're going to start going up this tree right here. So we're going to do melee weapons that are under 1 kilogram, get 20% of your strength level as strength bonus. Late game, this is going to be plus 20 strength bonus. When we have 99 strength, it's going to round down to about 19. Fantastic. We're also going to go ahead and pick up our first Thorns node down here. Whenever you're attacked, enemies will be hit instantly with 3 melee damage. This also can trigger if you take a 0. So here's the thing. This is going to take the entire build's defense and make it actually worthwhile. The more defense we have, even if it hits 0s, we're still going to proc Thorns. Now, the requirement for this is that we have to have a shield. That's perfectly fine. There are fantastic shields. We can get the DFS, and we're going to be chilling on strength bonus. It's going to be awesome. So now that we have Thorns, we can very much take this perk, which is really what makes Thorns viable. The base Thorns effect is good, but this sets it over the top. Whenever we hit with a melee attack or we hit with Thorns, we have a 10% chance to life steal some health back. Now, it is distance based. We're only ever going to be 1 tile away, so we're going to get 1 health from that. This is going to be proccing so often, it's not even going to matter. We're going to be getting an absurd amount of health back from this. This perk's awesome. We're going to go ahead and actually come right on up here, up to our ultimate Thorns node. So along the way, we pick up some melee damage. We also get 1% of our total defense bonus is going to be added to our Thorns. This is going to be awesome later. We'll have roughly 350 defense bonus when the build is capped out. So this is going to give us rounded down an extra 3 damage on our Thorns. So now every Thorns proc is going to do 6 damage. This is incredible. 6 damage even when we get hit a 0. You got to love it. Now here's the thing though, right? Whenever we trigger Thorns, it's actually going to do another hit splat as well. So we're actually going to do 9 damage with our Thorns late game, which is absurd. You get hit with 4 hit splats, all of a sudden you're returning 36 damage to the enemy. That is completely insane. That's just for having high defense. We love that. Combo that with all of our attack speed and our specs. It's all coming together, right? So the last node we're going to take right before we leave Asgarnia for our 16 points is going to be, while you have a shield equipped, you have a 0.1% chance per defense level to reflect all of the damage you take back to the attacker. So we're going to have roughly 130 defense in this build. So it's going to give us a fat chance to reflect damage if we do take it in its entirety back to the attacker, and we still get a Thorns proc on that. So we're going to do all of the damage back, plus the 9 Thorns damage from all of our Thorns nodes. It's going to be absolutely lit. So we're leaving Asgarnia. We're going into our next region. We're entering Fremennik. Now we're going to get 8 more points by the time that we're done with Fremennik. We're not quite going to go into the magic tree yet. We do have the Fang of the Hounds ideally at this point, but we want to build up a little more synergy with our lifesteal before we go over to the fire. So we're going to come up here and we're going to grab these 4 nodes. We're going to get some Prayer Pen. We're also going to get, whenever an attack deals a 0 to you, while you're either wearing a two-handed shield or an offhand is equipped. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to use a defender in the build, this works. All of the thorns doesn't. All of the thorns effects do not work, but this will work even if you're holding a defender. And it is still a very valuable perk because whenever we get hit a 0, we're going to be healed for 2 and restore 2 prayer points. Now, this is the most important node when it comes to V's Helm, because V's Helm is going to make it so we take 0 damage sometimes. That V's Helm reduction is going to give us 2 health and 2 prayer, which is going to give us a free spec, which is going to give us some life steal when we melee hit or thorns proc. It's all going to infinitely combo on each other. This perk is incredible. Now, we have some healing in the build already. This is going to overheal us up to 30% of our base hit points level whenever we proc any healing effect in this tree. So what that means is this is the first 4 points of our second region. We're going to use our second half of our 4 points for this region into going some extra accuracy, some melee damage, and now attacks with a melee weapon can consume 5 of that overhealed hit points to increase your minimum hit on the next attack by 5. Increasing your minimum hit in OSRS is one of the most important things in the game. It adds consistency, it gives DPS, it is phenomenal. We are constantly going to be overhealed. This is a super vital perk. This is god tier. Now, you're going to leave Fremenic. You're going to go to your third region. Whatever your third region is really where it's going to kick up, right? So now we've got 8 more points. We're going to spend those points coming over here all the way up to this ultimate node in the magic tree. So what we're going to get at the end of Fremenic, you're going to get +5 defense. Fantastic. Additionally, you're going to get another 15 defense. Fantastic as well. Going to get some accuracy. Now, this is one of the 2 nodes in the tree that don't provide a lot of value. This is regenerating runes and ammo by 30%. We're not even going to use it, but I promise you that how strong these nodes are that follow this are completely insane. So, we're going to get some magic damage, which does work with the fire attack on the Fang. Fantastic. Now, this is probably one of our really crazy damage additions that we're going to add late game. Fire spells cast burn up to 6% of our, meaning the player's, maximum hit points to increase your damage dealt by double the amount burned for. So, let's say you have 99 hit points, right? You could be overhealed, maybe you could be a little less. We're just going to average it at 99 hit points. That's going to take away 5 damage whenever you get the fire proc on the Fang spec or on the Fang's regular hit. That's going to give us 10 damage immediately when we hit with that fire attack on our melee weapon. Completely disgusting. 10 damage automatically that doesn't roll for accuracy and auto hits for 10 on top of all the hit splats we're already going to do is disgusting. This also counts as an extra hit to give us 2% additional spec. Everything combos with everything. So this perk is absolutely amazing. Now we're also going to go up here, get some more magic damage. Then fire spells hit, apply 1 burn up to a max of 5 and bounce to 2 nearby targets. Now here's the thing. When we proc the fire attack, we're going to start doing burn. Burn is typeless damage. Let's say you went Mortania. Let's say you're in Theater of Blood and you're fighting a melee Nihilo and there's 100 Nihilos around you. When you spec, you're going to burn that target, spread the burn to the range in the mage Nihilos, and now you're doing typeless damage to the entire room. This can also proc up to a max of 5 burn stacks, which ticks like 10 times, and that can go on everything. So now you're becoming an AoE god. So now at this point, if we're not counting the free perks we get off the bat, we spent about 32 points in our tree. I don't know why these 2 are here. Apologies. So this is what it should look like. We spent about 32 points, which means we've put 30 into the tree. We're going to have some sprinkles in the build after we're done. This is essentially the final product of the build. There's some extra stuff we can get that will help a little bit. So what I'd probably do first is I would come back down to the melee side. This is our second and only other node we're going to take that has no value, but we're going to get something extremely strong because of it. We already took this healing perk For Thorns, we're going to up that percentage chance to a 20% chance to heal health when we do all of our stuff. This is a very awesome node. You can pretty much play the whole build with only one. This is really what's going to make that super amazing late game when you're raiding constantly and you're healing even more. Fantastic. Then we're going to come back to the mage side, and we're going to get some awesome sprinkles over here. We're going to get 15% accuracy. We already took one of these over here. We got a 30% increased overheal. We're going to get 60% overheal in the build. Amazing. 15% accuracy again. 35% accuracy. So now we have cranked our accuracy to the max. We have 2 points to finish it off. We're going to go with +5 defense and +5 defense. Amazing. So we've completely finished the demonic packs. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the demonic relics. So I'm going to try to come through these really quick because these are by far the best options in my opinion. Let's start with tier 1, Barbarian Gathering. The reason I'm taking this is because we get strength experience for doing all of our early skilling. This is going to make it so that when you train and try to get that 60 attack for the Dragon Dagger, you are not going to have to train your strength very much at all. All you have to do is bang out attack and defense. Incredible. Now, we're going to come back to this later, but this is what we're taking for now. Tier 2, Hotfoot is also incredible, but I'm going Friendly Forager. For me, potions skyrocket me into the later parts of the game. I like to have prayer pots and buff potions early. If you want to go Hotfoot, Hotfoot is super broken. A lot of people are going to take it. This is definitely one of the parts where there's some variance. I'm going Friendly Forager. Tier 3. Almost everybody, if I had to make a guess, is going to go Evil Eye. I'm going to go Bank Heist only because getting to my bosses is not that bad. Evil Eye is very good for killing the Dagannoth Kings, so I'm considering whether or not I'm going to take Evil Eye or not, but these two are both super good. Evil Eye is a lot easier for when you're killing bosses, but Bank Heist is nicer early when you're going to be doing a lot of skilling, so it's going to be based off of whatever you're doing more. I'll probably end up doing more skilling early, so I'm going to take Bank Heist. But Evil Eye is super, super, super strong. I may even change my mind when I get into the build in-game. Do one of these two. That's all that matters. Don't do the bottom one. Tier 4, Transmutation. An absolute no-brainer for the build. It's going to be the way we train magic. We're not even going to touch it for combat. We're going to be using this Transmutation perk the entire game. We're going to get higher quality resources. We're going to get magic XP. We're going to have infinite nature runes with the Transmutation Ledger. This is the no-brainer perk for our build. Conniving Clues is awesome, and you can get a lot of points with it, but I don't want to have to level my magic, and I'm a very lazy player, so I'm definitely going to be going with Transmutation. Tier 5. Soul Harvest is amazing. I think that all three of these are incredible. I'm going Soul Harvest only because I really want to skyrocket that prayer to the max as soon as I can. Prayer is going to be awesome. You're going to heal a bunch of your prayer back with the build anyway. There's a lot of synergy with healing prayer in the build, but I really like this perk. It also helps you train rune crafting, which no one likes to do. So, tier 6. Grimoire. Here's the thing. We took V's Helmet. We don't need Culling Spree. We have V's Helmet. It acts as a Slayer Helm. V's Helmet enables us to take Grimoire, which we need. We are not going Kandarin, which means we're not going to unlock Piety, which means that this is going to make the entire build just a cherry on top. Now we have Piety. Now we have all the spell books. This is incredible. Don't even think about Eternal Sustenance. It's complete trash. Just take Grimoire. Don't look back. It's the best choice. Tier 7. Ironically, flow state being bad is actually solid for our build. I'm going to go Reloaded, and I'm going to come all the way back up to tier 1 because it lets you take another relic from prior, and I'm going to take Endless Harvest. I know I'm going to want to AFK, and this is going to be so amazing. Another option that you have is to take the other one of these two that you don't have of Bank Heist and Evil Eye. You could do this as well and have pretty much infinite teleports. This is also an incredible option. For Reloaded, that's definitely preference. Take what you'd like. Reloaded is probably the better choice, and it's completely insane. Now, tier 8 is our final relic. Some people might not even see this relic in their cycle of League 6. Executioner, nope. Minion, nope. Flask of Fervor is literally exactly what our build wants. When we drink the flask, we ambrosia and we adrenaline at the same time. So we're going to get full hit points, full prayer, full spec. Here's the big one. Reduce all damage taken to 0. We're still going to be proccing thorns when they hit a 0. So this potion makes it so that for 4 ticks, we don't care about anything. And in our build, that is the only thing we care about because we're thornsing everything. We're just absolutely becoming an unkillable tank. Flask of Fervor, no question. That leads us to the final page here of our loadout. So this is what our fully decked out loadout is going to look like. We're going to have Fang of the Hounds from Cerberus. We're going to have a DFS, if you've grind that out, very much recommend. We have Karamja, you have access to an Infernal Cape. You can get an Amulet of Fury and a Regen Bracelet from Onyx's on Karamja. We're going to have the V's Helm from doing Echo Dagonoth Kings. And now these are the ones that are replaceable. Everything else is a must. You must get these. You could technically have a Fire Cape, but don't be lazy. Just do an Inferno. If you have Flask of Fervor, Inferno is absolutely free. You're not going to struggle whatsoever with Inferno. You will have to break out a second combat style, which is not a huge deal. You can just use a fire spell when you get to Inferno. Not a big deal. Just cast a fire spell. But additionally, we're going to have 4 flex spots right here. Now, we had Ultor and Torba. Now, this is what the lower level setup would look like. If you're a little lazier, maybe you have less time, maybe you don't have the opportunity to grind out all of that super, sweaty gear. We're going to run, oh, that's not what I want to put on. We're going to run Primordials here. So this would be the lower intensity setup. Now, you do lose, I think we lost 7 max hits, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of a big deal, but additionally, this setup would still plow through any raid, through anything in the game. This would still be an absolutely phenomenal setup. You can really take it over the top by adding in those other items. So in the lower level setup, we're going to average about 330 for our defense. So we're still going to be having that +3 on our Thorns damage from our passive in the Demonic Tree. Now, we're looking at about an average of 330 for defense. If we go back to our high level setup, and we go back to our Avernic Treads max here, and we also get our Ultor Ring, as you're going to see over here on the right, our max hit goes up to a 94. And additionally, we have roughly 360 average for defense, which does help and does matter a little bit. But regardless, that is essentially the entire build. This is my Battle Mage build. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for staying and listening through all of my yapping, but I hope you guys use this build or maybe turn it into your own. I'm just super excited for this specific playstyle. It's going to be a super good time. Thanks for coming by, guys. I hope you guys really got some good information from this, and I will see you in the leagues. Have a good one, guys.